In these turbulent times, it is hard to know how to go forward. We have an idea, new capabilities, which we call lookouts and scouts, which we're going to share with you today. And this is how it is you might see through the fog. Welcome. I'm Tom Doorley of Sage Partners. My guest today is Pete Hart. Pete has such a long litany of experiences and all that it would take probably the entire half hour to go through them. So I'm going to just comment on two of them. One, his role as CEO and then chair at Mastercard International. And then secondly, as chairman of Silicon Valley Bank. Mastercard, he's got the perspective on the issues challenging large corporates. From the point of view of small companies, well, that's what he saw at Silicon Valley Bank. How does young companies deal with the same thing? Pete, welcome. It's good to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Tom. Certainly great to be with you.
All right. So today's episode, the overall arching comment and theme is how to see through the fog. We've made the case, and it's been well accepted, that these are confusing times. Technology changing, demographics, politics, media, everything is really confusing. And so the question we're going to deal with today is how it is you move forward. I mean, how it is you find a way to say, we got to do something. We have to keep growing. We have to keep moving. Well, how do you do it? So Pete, let me ask you to look back at your career and find a time or two when you've had to make a major change in what, let's say, MasterCard was doing. How did you figure it out? And then how did you mobilize the organization to get things done?
Well, Tom, I think every CEO has that opportunity, no matter what the era they're operating in. But the big difference today is the pace of change is just exploded upon us, and matters that could be considered over a course of months now need to be resolved in the course of hours. And it's very difficult to build an organization that is prepared to respond to that. I have great sympathy for CEOs today. The fog is not only intense, it's probably thicker than ever. And you're more likely to wake up and find a whole new world when the fog clears, and particularly in the technology-based industries, but the service industries, the expectations of customers and the distribution of news travels fast. And so any mistakes you make are multiplied and rapidly broadcast around the world. And I don't envy today's CEOs, I must tell you. Having said that, I read a little bit of your material and watched a few of your podcasts, and I think that the concept of scouts and lookouts is really, I don't care what nomenclature you use. I used to sort of separate people into today people and tomorrow people. You obviously need a lot of good today people. You can never get enough of them. But they're people who really love execution. They love getting things done. But you really must set aside resources that are spending all their time thinking about tomorrow. And it's hard to find tomorrow people. They're not good today people usually. And I can think back to some of the really exceptional people I had one way or the other and see the effect of what they did primarily at MasterCard, but at other companies that I served as a director. But good tomorrow people are very valuable, and you need to confide in them. You need to be close to them. They need to be able to feel they can call you in the middle of the night, and sometimes do. But that's really my approach to it, and I think it's more important than ever.
Yeah, I like that idea. In fact, the idea of today people and tomorrow people is really important. I also see that it's sort of the challenge that individuals have at being good at both, right? As you said, if you're good at one, you're not good at the other. Frankly, I'm a better tomorrow person than I would be as a COO, right? That's just not sort of not my habit. And in fact, one of the things we've found in working with people like yourself and doing these set of episodes is that we've learned that in the past, perhaps at MasterCard and elsewhere, but the clients that I've dealt with, we've been able to set our strategies, our plans in terms of fairly long range, maybe 5-year plans. And as I joke, a 5-year plan is supposed to last, 5 years. And in the past, when the pace of change, as you indicate, was not as rapid, you could do that. And then you'd make some tweaks now and again and all that. But lately, we've found that it's difficult, maybe even impossible, to act with certainty, that you have to be flexible and adaptable. So we're saying that rather than trying to be right, you have to really make yourselves ready, more ready than right. Does that sort of strike a theme or a tone for you, Pete?
It certainly does. And I, I think that preparing an organization for dramatic change is hard under any circumstances. I think today there are so many people who are wary about AI and its impact on their business and on their jobs that I'm watching all of that with great interest because developing a plan to leverage that AI capability as effectively as you can is going to be the great challenge for virtually every CEO today.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also that as you're picking up on your today and tomorrow people, that you have to be able to protect the base, but you still have to be able to take these growth-oriented risks. And the balance is difficult. It's a tough job, but it's what leaders do. It's what people like you have done in your career, Pete. And I keep stressing that you have to be able to do both and be able to make it work.
Well, it's that is certainly the name of the game. I watched China with great interest because we took MasterCard to China back in the early 90s. And I hired a tomorrow guy who was mainland born, Taiwanese raised and educated, got his PhD at UCLA, and he was head of strategic planning for Lockheed.
Oh.
And when I hired him, people said, "What the hell are you doing? Hiring an engineer out of the aerospace industry?" And but when it comes to long range planning, nobody has to plan for longer periods of time than the airframe people. And Hank Chang is his name, was absolutely superb in that regard, and he helped us develop a strategy that really embraced largely what has happened today. When Hong Kong suddenly was gobbled up, we knew that the game was never going to be the same. And Hank was probably the first person when we started in China, and everybody said, "This is terrific. We got a billion people here. We're going to have cards all over the place." And Hank said, "Oh, no, you're not. They're going to copy everything you do. They're going to create their own card system." And sure enough, China Union Pay today is actually larger than MasterCard. It's a private company. Wow. Very few people are aware of it, but it is really the internal settlement system for all of China. And very few Chinese actually have a MasterCard. The merchants that deal with tourists all have MasterCard acceptance capabilities. But so 50 years later, we're still sitting here scratching our heads and saying, what's the best way to approach China? And I saw that the CEOs of both Visa and MasterCard are with Trump this week in China, and they should be.
Yeah, they should be. And I'm actually very impressed that Elon Musk and Tim Cook and the CEO from Goldman Sachs and BlackRock, I think that was really a brilliant thing to do, because if there is going to be any sort of set of relationships that work, right, in spite of the fact that we're all trying to be number one, it's going to have a lot to do with sort of business interactions and trade and all that sort of thing. So I think you're right.
I think that's very wise of Trump and his cadre. And I personally think that there is no way we can survive a war with China that is mutually And
Yes.
I believe that the key is to build an overlapping interdependency that uh, nobody will choose to break. And
Yeah.
I hope that she and Trump get along well this week. They have some very tough issues to wrestle with, but I
Yeah.
really believe that we will only work things out much to our mutual benefit.
Yeah, I think that's right. It really is important. There was the old joke years ago that says that nobody has started a war with anybody else that had a McDonald's franchise. But that's overstated, right? But
Yep.
that's a principle that you're enveloping here. Let's talk a little bit about how it is we make either your tomorrow people and today people, or my idea of the lookouts and scouts actionable. Let me start doing two parts. Here's the first part. When I would do my strategies for clients, we would have teams. We didn't call them lookouts and scouts, but we did have one team to go out and figure out what's going on, doing the analysis and all that sort of thing, and then bring it back to another team where we said, is this right? Have we found the right things? Do we need to do something else? And to try to sort it out. Uh, the difference is that because these were 5-year plans, at the end of developing the 5 years, everybody would go back to their day jobs. And so it wouldn't stay in place. And so I think a big difference today is that we need to keep these people who we're calling today's and tomorrow's lookouts and scouts in place, embedded in the organization, doing the work for the long term.
I agree completely. And, I'm not as active anymore. I know a lot of CEOs, but most of those I know are retired. But there's every organization really has to be able to respond so much faster today than before. Yeah. And I think that most people I know are spending a lot of time on eventualities. And one of the things that was certainly in place when I was at MasterCard, but is increasingly a consideration for every business, and that's the geopolitical considerations.
Yeah.
Used to be that relatively few companies dealt beyond the borders of the United States or perhaps North America. Today, you're selling or buying things from every country in the world, and so we have to be very sensitized to those things, and those things that might change quickly. I got a call about 2:00 in the morning in, I think it was 1991, being advised that Saddam Hussein had just overrun Kuwait, and that we were suddenly, our call systems were swamped. Everybody wanted to get out of the country. Anybody that had a credit card wanted to use it. And I sat there for about 5 minutes and said, approve every single transaction.
Yes.
Don't ask
Wow.
any questions.
Yeah.
Who knows what will happen? Obviously, we won't collect it all, but there are good reasons why these people want to get out of the country. And so we took that approach, and ultimately most of it was paid back. And I think I look back on that and say, I was sitting there in my underwear when I made the decision, but I felt good about it afterward. There are many I've made that I don't feel good about.
No, I've had a few of those too. That's right. That's right. I hope over time the balance is in my favor, but I'm not going to call a question right now. That's true.
I feel the same way, and I think that, frankly, it's so important from my perspective to have access to inside people, but also to have access to outside people like yourself, who have the benefit of dozens of those kinds of experiences and can share what they've learned and what other companies have learned by going through it. Because when all is said and done, it's your ability to react to change and unexpected events that really sets you apart. I did some work with Elon back in the early 90s. I was chairman of a little venture company in Philadelphia, and Elon had started a revolutionary bank, as he described it, called X.com. He loves X.
He does, yes, he does. Yeah.
And so we were to provide the online banking platform for him. And I had dinner with him one night, and he was telling me about these new algorithms they had that were going to enable them to make consumer loans better than anybody else in the world, all unsecured. And I laughed and said, Elon, in my experience, it's really easy to make loans. It's sometimes really hard to collect them.
Yeah.
And Elon is quite self-assured, and he said, I think we got that covered. And 7 months later, he advised us that he was closing down that operation and was combining it with PayPal, with Peter Thiel and Max Levchin and those guys. And they became the PayPal mafia in the early 2000s, and sold PayPal to eBay, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that was his first big hit, right? His
Yeah.
first big win.
Yeah.
And I think that's right. But that's a good lesson about sort of sometimes you can look at the way things are done and say, well, wait a minute, I could do them a different way.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a reason why the things are being done that way, and then you're going to be overwhelmed. So
The great thing about Elon, and I don't really know him, but the great thing about him is that he's irrepressible.
Yeah.
And he puts whatever mistakes he made behind him, and he just moves on. And he's one of a kind. And
yes, he
I
is.
think that he has more global influence than anybody else on earth.
Yeah, I think you might be right. So one of the ideas that I'd like to explore with you a bit is, as we put together these teams of scouts and lookouts or whatever. So the reason we use those terms is lookouts are the ones who are out there scouring, going all over the place, trying to figure out what's going on. Then the scouts are trying to make sense of it, because you, as the CEO, or in your role as CEO, you have to bring something you can deal with as opposed to all the noise. So these are two categories. And one of the ideas that we want to make sure we have is that they should be comprised of people from all levels in the organization, all different areas, and all that sort of thing. But there's a second piece to it too. And you actually talked about it just a bit ago, and that is the role of the board. Now, you've been chairman and members of many boards, as have I. I've advised many boards, and there's always this tension between management. Not always, but often there's this tension between management and the board. The sort of interaction that is helpful and interaction that is disruptive and is too much. So we like to talk about today that the boards need to have sort of a added responsibility. There's the oversight responsibility, the fiduciary responsibility. Often that focuses on risk. But we say that there's a way in which that the board should bring insight into the action. So like you said about me and our work, that we being outside the organization, bring in some new ideas. The advantage to a board member who is knowledgeable and committed and all that, they have other experiences, and they can bring these ideas into the mix in a very effective way. So you don't have to worry about the density of operations. So can you see a role that the board can provide insight as much as oversight?
They certainly can. I think it really starts with the relationship that you build with the CEO, because you need to have a relationship. You need to know when to go to him privately. And you need to be able to tell him sometimes that you question what he's doing. He may be right. He invariably knows his company better than you do.
Mm-hmm.
But my first requirement as a director was always learn as much as you can about the business, how it makes its money, who the competitors are. Why do I think this company is going to succeed or fail? Mm-hmm. And that's a delicate job. And each director is different. Each director has different kinds of experiences. And managing a board, as you know, having been chairman of some, is a very delicate art in and of itself. But I think it plays a very important role. Certainly, almost every successful company has had strong board members who were a help.
Yeah.
There are situations where some entrepreneurs are just unmanageable. I have no
Yeah.
idea what Jensen Wong's board does for him at NVIDIA.
Yeah.
He has a very strong sense of what he wants to do. We know that Steve Jobs was a challenge for his board and for everybody else that dealt with him.
Yeah.
But I think that every situation is different. I tried to stay away from businesses I didn't understand.
Yeah.
I had no interest in going on the board of a machine tool company or something. I stayed focused on companies that provided consumer services. And so I felt fairly comfortable going in usually.
Yeah, and I think that's really very smart. Then again, it's this idea of you have insight from having seen situations like that elsewhere, and I think that is the role of advisors in general, the role of experience. That it's interesting. So a friend of mine has a grandson, and he just graduated from Berkeley, and he's in his second year as a business analyst at Deloitte. And he said to his grandfather, "Wow, this is great. There's nobody on my team who's older than 27. Wow, we know what's going on." And my reaction is, okay, right? That there's no question that that kid, that 22-year-old, can work AI better than anybody we're seeing there, and can generate new analysis and all that sort of thing. But that's only part of the idea. Not all of those analyses, not all of those cute things that you did are right. And secondly, sometimes and almost always, that you might have the answer before the organization can accept it.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, and so you have to. So this is why your experience is important, and why it is I wanted to have you on the podcast, and why it is sort of I'm still in the business, right? Because as long as we can understand that our experience is helpful, but it has to be reframed and refreshed for today's challenges. Experience is really helpful. Yeah.
Well, it's great fun to, and not only you're just swagging it, but it's great fun to try to figure out what the world's going to look like in 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think 5-year planning is important, but 5 years goes by in a wink now. And I think
Doesn't
you
it,
really
though? Yeah.
do need long range plans as to what you're doing with your product, who's the addressable market, how's it changing, where is it? I remember Steve Jobs invited me to come in and talk with him along with Dick Rosenberg, who at the time was CEO of Bank of America. And he had an idea for us that he thought we ought to adopt in the credit card industry. And it basically was for a new consumer product that was exclusively for banking, extraordinarily secure, had a lot of attractive aspects to it. And of course, in his mind, it was the perfect solution.
Mm-hmm.
But when we looked at our business then, and we looked at the motivations behind the business, we looked at the cheap price of a plastic card costs less than a penny.
Mm-hmm.
And while a card itself is pretty simple, we had enhanced the card through magnetic stripe and through chips going on the cards at that time. And we felt that our platform really was superior to what he was offering. Well, he went ballistic. And in the course of 2 hours, he basically told us we were the couple of dumbest guys, and that he felt most bankers were dumb. And so we walked out of there into the parking lot and stood around for a while thinking about it, decide we were going to stay the course. But I think that we all can see the future. It may take different shape, but you talk to any CEO and a pretty idea of what his threats are, who the competition probably is, what they're going to have to deal with. And And when all's said and done, he's got to have the right people to get him there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So kind of as we close, Pete, looking back on your years of experience, which is impressive, any sort of couple of messages you'd like to leave with our audience, sort of saying, here is Pete Hart, deeply experienced. Here's something I'd like you, the next generation of leaders, to know and to work with.
Well, I guess a variety of people have said that the chief executive needs to have a healthy dose of paranoia, and I really believe that's true. One of the toughest things about being a CEO, in my experience, and as I talk to many other friends, is it becomes all-consuming.
Yeah.
And those who are able to balance their family life or their personal life with their job are really few and far between, because most spend almost all their waking hours thinking about who's coming after them, who's the new competition, is my product going to stand up, what's the market want? And I think, number one, paranoia really is healthy, and people laugh about it, but I would urge everybody to spend as much time as they can thinking about threats and opportunities, because in all this change, we focus on the threats, but there are enormous opportunities, and we see them leveraging it. People taking everyday technologies and taking it to new directions. New companies come up all the time that are suddenly worth $20 billion, $30 billion because they are looking for opportunities, not for threats.
Oh.
And so that would be my other suggestion is be paranoid, but be opportunistic, be optimistic, because ultimately there are opportunities out there beyond your imagination.
Oh, Pete, I love that. And that is a great way to end our conversation, because often you hear about, and I was just reading a piece from the Harvard Business Review that talks about the importance of managing risk. Yeah, that is important. But at a time when things are changing, market shares are up for grabs, new businesses can be created. We have to also go after opportunity, because opportunity is where the growth is. Opportunity is where the value is. And so I love that comment. So thank you for that, Pete. I think that's terrific. Yeah.
Great. Well, it's great to talk with you, Tom. I wish we could spend another couple of hours. You are a guy that I admire greatly, and it's wonderful that you're still in the saddle and doing well.
Well, thank you very much, Pete. And I feel the same way about you. You're a voice of wisdom that I hope to share with our audience. And so to the audience who's been listening to us, thank you very much for paying attention. We've been working on finding ways to see through the fog, and Pete has helped us immensely today to figure out how to do that. Our next episode will pick up on one of the things Pete and I talked about, and that's how to get the board involved. Stay tuned for that. Until then, take care and be well. Change has never come faster or hit us harder. In the fog, leadership is the light that cuts through. I'm Tom Doorley. Thanks for joining me on our Focus on Growth, Navigating the Fog of Change series. Until the next time, keep leading forward.